Hello and welcome to this episode of the Business Spotlight. Today we are joined by Joanne. Hi, Joanne.
Hi there. Hello.
Thanks very much for joining us today.
I'm delighted to be here.
Pleasure. So, if you're joining us for the first time, what is the Business Spotlight? So, the Business Spotlight's been created mainly for anyone that's thinking of getting into business, or if you're already on that entrepreneurship journey, you're in the right place. So, Joanne, if you can just kick things off for us, please, by letting the audience know who you are, the business you run, and how long you've been running it for, please.
Yes, with pleasure, Mark. My name's Joanne Alexander-Sefre. I have run my own business called, the actual company is Sefrex Limited, but I work mainly under a food brand called Sans Frontières. And I have worked in the food and drink sector specifically since the mid-90s. So I set up my company after working in the healthcare sector for 10 years and then working for a large bakery. And then I was kind of pushed, but I'm actually in retrospect very glad I was, into setting up my own food distribution, import and export business. So that's the background way back in the 90s, and I'm still here, still doing it, for better or for worse, with lots of ups and downs, but effectively, I love what I do.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I'm glad that you pronounced the name, because I'm sure that if I'd have attempted to pronounce it, I would have got the pronunciation wrong. So is that French, right?
It is French, and the name came from, you've got Médecins Sans Frontières, but I worked with a French business partner for over 20 years. So in the early 2000s, we set up Food Sans Frontières, Food Without Borders, as a sales and marketing agency based in the UK and France. So that's what the name came from, and we've kept up that name all the way through. So
Wow.
it served us well.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you can probably tell, French, it definitely isn't my second language. But on that note, I believe you speak, is it 6 or 7 different languages that you speak,
I
Joanne?
do. Yes, I do. I studied languages at university. I've lived and worked in various European countries, and I basically set up my business because I saw that there was a gap for food and drink suppliers who maybe were very successful at the time in the UK, but didn't have the right contacts or language knowledge to successfully enter markets such as France, Spain, Germany, Italy, basically around Europe effectively, although I have worked also further afield. And yes, I do speak and write French, German, Spanish and Italian, and understand a few more. And I guess I've kind of tailored my business around my love of using languages. And I have also on many occasions mentored or talked in schools or in various locations about the value of using foreign languages and understanding different cultures within a business setting. So that's my sort of passion, really.
Wow, and I suppose that also gives you a massive edge and a niche as well. Is that kind of where you would say one of the main niches is for your business, Joanne?
I think it has been, yes. I mean, at the end of the day, sales of any products are achieved through communication, through getting to know your customers, through understanding your customers, even within the UK. I mean, within the UK, we are a multicultural, multilingual country. So even within the UK, you have in many businesses, you've got different ways of working, different cultures, different religions, different nationalities. So it's not just for companies sort of dealing, buying or selling internationally. But I think it is such an important issue when you are a company that's particularly selling your services or your products, because you need to appeal to your customers. And and people in the UK, if not everybody speaks other languages, that's not even the point. But if you need to, it's understanding that if you need to, let's say you want to work in Italy, let's say, or Japan, or wherever it can be, if you can actually work out a way to fill that gap. It could be employing people, it could be using external interpreters, it could be translation, it could be just even learning how the culture of a particular market is in order to deal effectively with your customers, build up a rapport, effectively then sell more and make more money. That's what it's all about, after all. So understanding your customers and communication is crucial to success.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's paramount, as you say, and I think that's an amazing thing to be able to do that in multiple languages as well. So that's fantastic, Joanne. So you've mentioned the business has been running for quite a while now. So at this point, I'd usually ask, and I'm going to, but sort of like give us a bit of a whistle-stop tour from the reason behind you launching the business, and then just some milestones along the way, just sort of some challenges that you've had and some successes that you've had.
Yeah, sure, with pleasure. I mean, as I say, I started off working in the for a large healthcare company called Smith and Nephew, and moved through the ranks through export sales, marketing, UK sales, and ended up as an export manager for a couple of their divisions, which is how I moved down to the Essex area. In fact, I then had an opportunity when they were closing a factory to look elsewhere, which was probably well overdue, and joined a company that makes Hovis bread. I mean, at the time it was called British Bakeries. So I stepped into a nest of vipers, I would say, between the head office and the manufacturing site, and all kinds of challenges in terms of navigating personalities and building up sales into European markets of their bread. It's crazy. Their sandwich bread and breakfast muffins, and it was, at one point I was going at least a day a week. I was getting up at 5, taking a flight to Paris, going around warehouses and supermarkets, and then getting home at midnight, and then having to be at my desk at 9 o'clock the following morning, which was a challenge. Anyway, I was very successful, but as is happens in lots of businesses, they have lots of people who are keen to basically take over your job, let's say. But I was made redundant about a week before I was been there for 2 years, and I had a severe case of chickenpox at the time. Plus, I think I was about 5 months pregnant, so it was quite challenging. But you know, sometimes these things happen for a reason. And what did happen was that I was immediately asked by a competitor to give them consultancy, and I was immediately asked by buyers across particularly France and Spain and Belgium to find them products. So I set up my business. I just set up my business. This was in 1993. I got one small child of about 3, and another one just arrived. I didn't even have a computer. I didn't have a mobile. I set everything up in terms of on a word processor, and started dealing with buying from factories, handling distribution to European customers, and being invoiced in lots of different currencies, setting up bank accounts, having credit insurance, going to overseas exhibitions, and was just determined to do it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you have something that you believe passionately in, you will do it. And I was determined to make it work. And so that was really quite a challenge, I would say. If anybody wants to worry about having a young family and getting on and running their own business, you can do it. Just you might not do all the washing up or clean your house very well, but you know, you can do it. And so I suppose that's how my business started, and it did build up and up through various markets, lots of challenges. I had a major blip in, I think, 97, when one of my initial importers and wholesalers went bankrupt, owing me well over 100,000. My credit insurance eventually only paid half. I managed to get a loan to bail me out. And what was really interesting, I'd say to anybody else, I hope they'd find it interesting, that I had one of the local business link financial counselors came in, looked at what I was doing and said, you need to focus on things that make you money, and buying and selling from different factories and having a margin in between where you are, the factories want their money. The customers, in my case, it was various markets around Europe, don't always pay on time. So I looked around to build up what I was doing, and found a number of consultancy projects working with the UK government, and slowly, and got out of, as well, the other important thing, I got out of where I could actually taking title to products, because, and this is very relevant for later, because as part of the EU, there was no reason for UK suppliers to have to go through wholesalers if they could sell directly wherever they wanted, and the only costs are going to be in my case, a sales percentage on commission, and also the logistics costs. So I slowly moved the model to working with manufacturers, not just in the UK, but also in other European markets as well, as their agent. Did consultancy on this government scheme, which I worked on for 15 years, which was very much linked to communication and helping exporting companies to have the right plan in place to cover language, cultural and communication issues with their customers. And so my business moved on in terms of the provision. And then that's when I also teamed up with a partner in France, and also worked very closely with Spanish partners. And yeah, that continued for a good number of years with ups and downs. And in the meantime, I did manage to add another 2 children to the flock, and also inherit horses after my mother sadly passed away, to add to my already 4. So I think life was quite busy at the time. So I can carry on, or if there's anything else particularly.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is fantastic. It's very fascinating as well.
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you know, the fact that you've got, so am I right in saying you've got 4 children?
I have.
4 children.
Yeah.
And how many
Yeah.
horses by this stage?
Well, I started off with about 4. Then my mother passed away and I inherited hers. At one point I had 15 horses.
Wow.
And slowly through, unfortunately, they're being old, or selling some, or it dwindled down. And I think now I still have, I think, about 3.5 horses, because I share one with somebody, which live locally in a field to me, and definitely keep me sane and fit, I would say, as well. Yeah. But it's never been, the horse side of it has never been the money-making side. I mean, I think anybody who makes money on horses, fantastic, but it's been very much a hobby, but equine therapy for local children in a special school where I'm a chair of governors, but also in just enjoyment riding. So that's, I did try at one point, on an aside, thinking, oh, maybe I could work with equine products, equine feed, equine tack, but I did gravitate back to the human food and drink sector, as well as, I would say, assisting my husband, who's an architect, sort of in the back office side of his practice as well. So, but yeah, so obviously from the time in the early 2000s, yeah. Sort of we continued very much working with suppliers, handling their sales with wholesalers, distributors, supermarket chains, and sort of it ebbs and flows according to customers. It's not something which I think that everybody can cope with, because it's not a fixed, you don't get a fixed salary always every month, but I've stuck at it, and sort of coming up to the present now. Yeah, I'm still there, and still working with some great companies, got some really good projects. Even this morning, if I just tell you, just as one example of many, I've been speaking this morning with the buyers of a major supermarket chain who are looking for, would you believe, Spanish churros, which what everybody knows as lovely donutty things you dip in chocolate or whatever. So right now, this morning, I spent some of my time dealing with a really, really interesting company in Spain who make these products, and with the supermarket buyers and the formats that they want. And so my role in that case is actually coordinating between the suppliers who don't actually speak English or not very well, and obviously the buyers who want a particular format of products delivered to their warehouses for their stores. And it can get quite complex, because let's not forget, we are in a post-Brexit situation where goods coming in from the EU have got certain documentary requirements. You've got import VAT. You've got to have, for every EU company which is coming into the UK, they need to have a representative company that is managing their business. And it's not so simple, and that's quite a barrier for import. Obviously, for export, I mean, I also deal with companies selling products into France, Spain, Germany, and it's been very, very difficult. I mean, I can come on to that a bit more detail if you're interested, but yes, so that's an example just today of what I've been doing. Plus, after this meeting, I'm going off to meet with a wholesaler who import from Turkey really fantastic confectionery and snack products, because again, I've got buyers very interested in products here in the UK and also Ireland. So that's just today. So
wow, a day in the life.
yeah, exactly.
Wow, that is truly, truly fascinating. I mean, I genuinely could sit here all day, Joanne, listening to stories that you've
got lots of stories. Just need to jog me for all sorts of things. But no, but it's I mean, along the way, obviously, it's not been easy. I mean, I will say that the situation for me regarding the difficulties for business after Brexit, and the lack of confidence, both from the UK suppliers in being able to trade in the EU, yeah. Which is added to by the high costs of distribution because of the documentation, and added to this the reluctance on behalf of some buyers around the EU in actually buying from the UK. I mean, one very good example of a company I was working with in Germany who were importing a lot of UK meat and dairy products. They just decided back in 2018, looking at the next year's supply, to completely delete all the UK suppliers. So it's not been easy at all for many companies within this sector, to be honest. But we are where we are, and I think that the situation we're in now, and in fact, I was at a big food and drink exhibition a few weeks ago at the Excel, called the International Food and Drink Exhibition. I was on a panel talking specifically about export strategy for small and medium enterprises, and really saying that and this covers all sectors, not just food and drink, of course, that really the onus is on now the businesses to actually go for it. There are now so many companies who are being successful, who have navigated the documentation, who have, if necessary, they've got an address within, could be Ireland, could be Netherlands, could be France, whatever, from which they are trading. So it's now, and with the slightly sort of differing attitude of the current government to working in across the EU, it's very much time for businesses to let go of their worries and inhibitions, get some advice. I mean, obviously, I'm one person who'd be happy to advise businesses, and again, in any sector, but to actually go for it, because the home market very often isn't enough. And why would a business in the UK prefer to try to sell to, I don't know, the could be anywhere, sort of Japan or India or obviously US, big problem at the moment anyway, but okay, Canada, when you've got markets like France and Belgium literally on our doorstep. So I'm very much of the belief that businesses should just get on with it and find a way to get the products out there.
Absolutely. I think that's some really good sage advice there, Joanne. Thank you very much for that share. So a question I'd like to ask then is, I mean, going forwards, I know none of us have a crystal ball, but what does the future look like for you, and what sort of challenges do you think you might face?
Well, I mean, you've always got to evolve. I mean, whatever you're doing, whatever age you are. I mean, I'm not, unfortunately, a spring chicken anymore. But you always need to be open to new challenges, new ideas, new opportunities. And, you know, it so happens I do really enjoy working in this sector and using my, not just my language skills, my business skills, really, of dealing with customers and understanding them. But you know, I'm open, as everybody has to be, to all kinds of other opportunities as well. And I mean, I'm very much hoping that the kind of work which has been going on the last couple of years will continue and grow. But I'm always happy to look at new other challenges, as long as it's something that's interesting. I think what happens is when you do have sort of quite a lot of experience in business, you decide you want to work with people and products that you like, and you know, and people that you can value and you can trust. I think that's one of the most important things. And I'm a believer in working with on a trust basis, because I also know from experience, for you can have every kind of contract or agreement in place, but if a company wants to get out of it, unless you're prepared to go to court or whatever, it's not very easy. so you know, if you try, when you start to collaborate with somebody, to show them the added value of working with you, then it genuinely works. I mean, I could count probably on one hand the times I've been over, you know, somebody gone over my head, and you know, that's just the way things are. But
yeah. No, that's another great share, and thank you for that insight. So, I mean, moving on to yourself then, Joanne, as the business owner,
yes.
what would you say, and I'm sure it's probably difficult to narrow it down to maybe one or two, but what would you say has been the biggest lesson that you've learned whilst being in business?
The biggest lesson I have learned is to don't give up, to persevere, and to think very clearly about what you enjoy doing as well. And I suppose there comes a point where you need to decide, you know, flogging a dead horse, if you're wasting your time, and is actually to learn when to step away from things as well, which I'm not saying I've always done. You know, ideally I've perhaps somehow, there've been occasions where I've kept on going when perhaps I should have stepped back. So, but I think those are some key messages. And also value. I always feel that value the contacts you make and the relationships you build. And if you can, always, if you need to change something, always leave in as positive way as possible, because you never know when you might need to go back to them. Always leave the door open a bit if you can. And I've had numerous examples of that, where I have gone back to previous contacts where I stopped working with them, but I've still kept a good sort of relationship with them. So there's a few examples.
Yeah, no, that's some fantastic shares, and I'm sure some of those, if not all of those, are going to resonate with our viewers and our audience. So thanks again for that, Joanne. So I'd like, if you will, just to humour me with this one. If we were able to jump into a time machine and just go a little bit back in time, and on with the knowledge that you've got now, but we're going to go back and we're going to visit an 18-year-old Joanne. Now you get to give yourself one piece of advice, one golden nugget. What would it be?
Follow your heart and your head. Aim high. I would say to anybody as well. You know, I sometimes speak to teenagers, and I would say, you know, really be very ambitious. Think about what you really want to do. And when I say ambitious, it isn't all about making money. You know, think about what your goals in life are. I mean, you know, I've got no doubt that possibly I could have made a lot more money, but I chose to do what I enjoyed as well. So, I mean, you know, so I think that's also very important. I mean, when I was 18, I mean, I was just starting university. I'd wanted to go to drama school, and my parents very sensibly, who were both doctors, by the way, so completely different, they didn't say no. They just sent me to a careers guidance. In those days, they sent me down to London from East Yorkshire, where I come from, and I spent a whole day filling in questionnaires, and to come back to me. And I recently found it again, and it was absolutely, I have to say, accurate. It basically indicated that I wasn't really dedicated enough for life in the acting world. I wasn't really suitable to be a teacher, but what my skills and personality seemed to point towards was being in marketing, sales, industry. And yeah, it got me right. And so I think it was yeah, and at the time, to be honest, at the time I did understand that, and I did go on to do a marketing course as a postgraduate diploma, and I did then go get a job within a company as a trainee for their export department. So I kind of followed a route plan, which I was, to be honest, perfectly happy with. You know, I think the other thing is for everybody is to, whatever choices you make, is to be happy with them. And I also think on a personal level, and I've said this to my children too, that if I hadn't had that opportunity to set up my own business, I probably, and I'd stayed in the corporate world, I may not have had number 3 and number 4. So it's pretty important. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I love that energy that you've got. And I think you've mentioned it a couple of times, but you know, one of the keys there is about being happy.
It really is. And doesn't mean that you're not going to have challenges and you're going to think, how am I going to pay for this? Or all sorts of things can go wrong, as they have done. I've had numerous examples of that as well. But it's, you know, tomorrow is another day. You have to sort of sit down and work a way around it. And, you know, and I'm very, very grateful, seriously very grateful for, you know, the support I've always had from my family, from my husband, from now my children, and I think that and other people I've worked with, colleagues I've worked with for over the years, and that means so much. And even now, you obviously the people I have the horses with, we've got a fantastic team of people, and I'm quite active locally in various capacities as well. So it's, yeah, long may it go on, let's hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the fact that you've been running your business for in excess of 3 decades, I mean, sort of is a credit to you and those that work with you anyway, Joanne. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much indeed.
I mean, one of the things on that note I'd like to know is, what is it that, you know, puts that fire in your belly? What is it that really inspires you to continue to do what you do each week, each year, so
on? What inspires me, I think, are the great companies that I get to know. It's knowing. I think I've thought about this a lot, because I've had quite a lot of people saying, oh, go in to do non-executive directorship for companies, or go and do just consultancy. And I said, well, when I really think about what I enjoy in my business, what I really like is working with suppliers, working with factories, and actually helping them to make a difference as part of their team, to develop their business for all their company, for all their employees into new customers. That's what I enjoy, and I really enjoy the challenge of using my language skills when I'm speaking to, having meetings, or whether I'm in exhibitions, or obviously a lot of it now online. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? It's now sort of a very normal thing to have video calls with everybody, whereas in the past you'd be jumping on planes and going to visit people all the time. I think the world has completely changed. But and also, I mean, I think the other important thing is that, you know, with the world has changed with business, with social media, and whether it's Instagram or whatever, still there is a need to actually be communicating with your customers and get to know them. And I think that's what that's what inspires me. And yeah, and I'm always open to working with new companies and new partners. I think that's always been part of it as well. If you get stuck in a rut, that's never going to be good. So I think the key is to always look at new challenges, and I think I'll continue that until I can't talk.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen anytime soon, Joanne. So, I mean, it's been absolutely fabulous getting to know you a bit more, and I'm sure that our viewers and listeners are definitely going to want to find out more about you and your business, Joanne. So, what's going to be the best way for people to get in touch?
Well, maybe you can share my mobile and obviously email details. I'm very happy to have a sort of a chat with anybody who'd like a sort of a little bit of advice, depending what they're doing, particularly in terms of dealing internationally, or navigating various sort of communication or other sales issues. Yeah, very happy to have my details given out, however you do within these podcasts.
I mean, I'm assuming most of the details are going to be on your website. What's the website address there, Joanne?
It's www.foodsansfrontières.com.
Fantastic. Well, what we'll do is we'll get that put up on the screen as well, just for our viewers, and
okay, lovely.
Look that up too. Well, Joanne, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you for having me.
And for all of our viewers and listeners, that is a wrap. You've been watching and listening to the Business Spotlight. We'll see you all again very soon. Take care for now.